Hashgacha Pratis is again, go back to the barracks. So I'm here. Where's my nephew? 3. Fast forward. I think it's worthwhile to tell you, so what did we do in Auschwitz, in Birkenau? Well, I was busy in a way because I had film. So I used to put on the film in the morning and then give it to the people. As a matter of fact, the Leibel Rebbe, this Leibel Rebbe, his uncle, that his father's and older brother was there. And somebody wrote up about the little boy. It is the Klausenburger Rebbe put that little story in about little things, little happenings, the positive, what took place in the concentration camp. And this man, Chaim Tudor, wrote about a little boy from Kovner, Leibel, Zisman, about me, that I had film, and I give the people to put on film, and then in the evening I get it back, and the next morning again the same thing. He says he got to put it on, and he did put it on, but unfortunately, the very next day they took him to the gas chambers. So I was busy with my film for several things. First, to make sure that they don't catch me, they don't catch anybody. Every time you put on film was, if they catch you, they shoot you on the spot. But we did something, because if you don't do nothing, that they realized that you can go crazy. So what they decided, the Germans, that we were like a lula horses. They had a wagon that used to pick up the garbage. So we had a wagon with rope, and on every side was maybe 8 to 10 boys on one side, and on the other side with rope. And we used to go from in Birkenau, from lager to A, B, C, D, it was about 7, 8, and pick out the garbage. At the end of the day, the wagon was full. Next day again. What they decided, and I don't know really why, that they should have a watchman, an SS, a soldier, with a rifle to watching us when we're going from one camp to the other camp. Now, to give you a little bit of a picture, what was in Birkenau when it was active in 1944, there were the 10-foot barbed wire. Part of it was electrified, part of it not. Outside was every 50 feet a tower. By the way, I saw it on one of the films, a tower that there was an assessment with a machine gun. We were wearing the white and blue uniform. Most of us did not speak the language. We didn't even know where we are, but they decided that they need a watchman to watch us. So we were pulling the wagon, and he was walking around the wagon, and by 11 o'clock he was so bored that he had to have something activities. So in Birkenau, there was not paved, the roads were not paved, it was clay. So when it rained, it takes sometimes use little puddles, maybe for a day or 2 days. And when he saw that there was a puddle, that we were passing a puddle, he used to go about next behind a little boy, and hit it with a bayonet. So when you're from the back, you're not aware of it, so you fall into the puddle. And to him, it was a big joke. But meanwhile, the boy was wearing a whole day wet pants. And I couldn't take that. And I was right behind him. And I said to myself, if he does that again, I'll kill him. That. So in the afternoon, as we changed, I was on the other side, and we were pulling the wagon, and he does that again in front of me. And he hits him, and he falls in that puddle, and another puddle, and he gets wet again. And I turn to him and I say, warum machen Sie das? Jawohl, you Schwein. You know what that means, right? No? Why are you doing this, you pig? Schwein is a pig. And he turned around. He wanted to know who has the audacity to talk to him. And as he turned around to face me, I took about a little fist, ladies, listen to that. And I hit him where it hurts. It's a very good protection. You have nothing else. And he doubled up, and there goes the rifle right between my eyes. And I tell him, that's me again. I say, schießen Sie bitte, jawohl, you Schwein. Go ahead, shoot, you pig. And I started to scream at him that I intimidated him. Well, I'm here, obviously. He didn't shoot me. See, let's say incident. This is, well, I don't know what to call it, the positive end of it. There was other stories what I did in Auschwitz to make sure that the bracha of the Rebbe is really comes through. You know. Fast forward. January 1945. January 1945, Russian army was coming closer. They were already in Poland, and they were just maybe a few 10, 15 kilometers from Auschwitz-Birkenau. They liquidated Birkenau. Some people were lucky to be in different groups, and a week later, they were freed. I was not so lucky. They took us again in trains, and they took us from Auschwitz, from Birkenau, straight to Mauthausen. Mauthausen is in Austria already. Mauthausen is a very, very, to me, it was a very horrible concentration camp. They took away my tefillin over there. Everything, other things happened that we will skip. If you want after one, you can ask me. It's a very, very important, I think, to talk about it. But because of the time, I will go on. And there was nothing, I did nothing in Mauthausen. Before you turn around, now it's already spring, it's after, and so we were outside. And one day, they said that tomorrow we're going to go on a march, and we're closing up this camp. That was just about the end of April. And we went what you call on the Dead March, on the Tote March. Why was it a Tote March? Because we went from Mauthausen, we walked to Gunskirchen. Gunskirchen was a concentration camp that nobody worked, but nobody came out alive. The reason for it being that they didn't feed you. So that little water and that little bread that you get one day, after 1 day, 2, 3, 4 days, that's it. As it is, everybody was half dead already. So we walked on that march, and it was a long march. And something took place on the march, which I am going to stop and tell you because it's very important to me, and I believe it's important to you. And this is why I talk to people about it. So we were walking, and people were on the gutter flying like flies, really, human beings all over. And I didn't feel good already because I did something which I shouldn't have done. But if somebody will remind me, I'll talk to you afterwards. And the man was laying half in the gutter, half on the sidewalk over there, and he picked up his head, and I was on the right side. He calls me, Ingele, come here. Little boy, come over. So I thought that he wanted me to help him up, to get him up, so that because anybody that fell behind, they used to shoot so that nobody will be alive to testify, whatever. So I tried to pick him up, and he said, no, Medavshin, no, you don't have to do that. And then he raised his hand, and he started to shout at me, and he says, Du bist ein überlebender Krieg. You survived the war. I don't know how he knew it. Sag sie, was getan hast. Tell them what they did to us. Don't forget me. The boys told me, I have to go on. Let's go. We cannot fall behind. And then I looked back about 25 feet. He's gone. I didn't have, I guess, the maturity to ask him the name, where it comes from. What country? Maybe tell maybe to children that survived. Now you know why I talk. We continued walking, and they took us in Gunskirchen. I told you I didn't feel good already, so the boys were holding on from both ends, but as we went into the camp, they trapped me over there on a straw, and that's it. The very next day, American soldiers came, opened up. That was the 5th of May. I did not see them, but something very terrible happened, because as they opened up the gates, and as the American soldiers saw the skeleton, the people that were still alive, so they gave them everything that they had. When you're in combat, you get food for a day, for 2 days, and they had chocolates, and they had little cans of food and whatever, and cantina waters, and they saw them, so they gave them everything they had. Figured so they wouldn't eat today. And they ate, and they ate. And that was too much, too rich, and they didn't make it. Me, I was already half gone. I didn't know what's happening. So they went into the camp, and they looked at the pulse to see if you're still alive. So they saw I was still breathing. They grabbed me on a stretcher, took me in the ambulance, and they got me to the hospital. So I'm here. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is my story in short version. Out of the 137 boys that we started off from Landsberg, 6 survived. I'm one of the 6. If they have any questions, I'll be more than glad to answer. Oh, yes. I promised. The reason I'm leaving the best for last, the best, it's not the best, but about the Klausenburger, because today is something about the Klausenburger. I had, and this happened after the war, so I figured I'll say about before the war and then during the war, after the war. This happened after the war in the DP camps. I had a schus, unbelievable schus, to get to know intimately the Klausenburger Rebbe. So I'll be very brief. The hour is late. It was already not it was already in Fehrenwald, not in the other one. We were about to go, it's already the second year, and it was just before Yom Kippur, and we were about to come to America. And we were in Bremenhaven, the Klausenburger Rebbe, and us. Us meaning there was a Bocherim, about 10, 12 boys, and in one room. And we were waiting for the ship to go to America. What took place is, at that time I didn't understand. They had a strike. The ship was one that was, it was the locomotive, the power was done by coal, and for that you needed shoveling coal into the furnace, and that gave the power to get the ship working. Unfortunately, the workers, a lot of them, whatever, white, black, they had a strike. They said they're not working. So now we are there, and we have to wait until the strike is over, which we didn't understand. I didn't understand what it is. I made a lot of remarks that today I probably wouldn't dare saying. I said, let's throw over them in the ocean, and I can shovel the coal. He said, it doesn't work that way. Anyway, we were there in one room. And I get to know them. I learned with the Rebbe. As a matter of fact, I know you wouldn't believe it, but I played chess with the Rebbe. It's true, but with a condition. I says, first, we're learning Gemara and Acher. Okay, Rebbe, yeah, good. I was on the right hand when the Rebbe was providing the tish with him. They used to bring in Chalet, 12 Chalalach, and Sholem Aleichem. I knew all the Nigunim. I could be a Klausenburger Chassid if it has to do with all the Nigunim. But I was invited that Yom Kippur to spend in Fernwald. So I went to Fernwald. My brother, we went to Fernwald with them because there was a strike over here anyway. And the Rebbe came there also because what he doing Yom Kippur on Bremenhaven and waiting over there. And something took place. I told that story several years ago to Simon Jacobson from Allgemeiner, but I'll repeat it to you because I don't know how many of you know that. Something took place. So we come there before Yom Kippur in Fernwald. There was thousands of people. And you heard somebody talked about the Rebbe, because the Rebbe that he had, that a little girl knocked on the door. She says, "I want to be blessed because Koyanim." Not only is it true, I was there. But it wasn't only girls, it was also boys. And the boys were before the girls. And that's why the Rebbe came out quite late to Kol Nidre. The Rebbe came out, the Klausenburger Rebbe. And he was wearing a kittel. There were thousands of people, men and women, in Fernwald. I say 2,000-3,000, maybe more. I don't know. And he was wearing a kittel. And he started to give his Eures drasha, Erwin Yom Kippur, before Kol Nidre. And he went on a topic that he was I guess that he wanted to get the people, about why do we wear a kittel on Yom Kippur? And you had people I don't have to explain. Usually when I speak to different listeners, I have to explain what it is. So, they have minhagim, why we wear a kittel with white, with chatoya, and pure. But then he said, but there's one more reason. And the reason why we wear kittel is because that after 120 years, your parents, grandparents, after the night, in the kever, before you put a kever, is they put in tachrichem, and tachrichem are white. And that is the kittel. And then he started to scream. But our parents, our fathers, our mothers, our sisters, our wives, our children, they don't have any tachrichem. They don't have any white. So why are we wearing white? And he started to tear off his kittel. I was there. And now you have 3,500 people, men, women, and children, including myself, that started to cry that he couldn't stop him. Anybody here that was there in 1946? Yom Kippur? No. He couldn't stop him. He couldn't stop crying. He cried. Everybody cried. What am I trying to tell you? You talk about the Klausenburger Rebbe. I saw him. He was so human, so sincere, so devoted to anybody, any Jew, any little kid, boy, girl, man, woman. He was a human being also, besides being a Rebbe. And that part, people don't talk about it. One Friday night after we came back over there, and he's busy, and it was Shalom Aleichem and singing in his mirrors. I don't have to tell you that he was probably dead. And we were very hungry, so we went in the kitchen, we made kiddush, and here they smuggled in some food. So we were so hungry, so by the time it was half London, he opened his eyes, and he sees that what happened, never that we were hungry. And I was on the right side, right in front of him, and says, he was also human, besides being a Rebbe. I can go on and tell you so many stories we learned all day. The hasmada of this human being, if you call him human being, because I don't know how a human can do it. From early morning to night, he used to walk, he used to run in the room, learning with the Gemara. I was there. We spent about 45, 60 days. So I don't know, if you want, we can continue, talk about the Klausenburger Rebbe. The Emunah, I mean, everything you can read in the book there is, about the Klausenburger Rebbe, how he survived the war, and lost 11 children he lost, a wife and 11 children. And the Emunah Hashem, the strength, and the strength that he was giving over, not himself, but giving over to whoever he met, is unbelievable. It's very, I don't have the words to describe what he went through, how he was right the day after, the first Shabbos. He didn't have what to wear. He didn't have something. I was going to go private t-shirt already. What do you have there? A potato thing. It's not to be believed, the Emunah Hashem that he has. And this is what we have to learn, this one. So going back to me, my story, is people ask me, the first question people ask me, Leibel, after all you talk about how you survived the war, how do you still believe in God? So I have two answers. It depends how you ask, with the question what it is. Sometimes I just give one answer, and that is, after what you just heard, how can you not believe in God? After all that took place, what it is just happened, you push a button. But to go a little bit deeper is what I started to tell you before. In my family, in my house, in my parents, it was very easy to believe in God because I come from such a strong, powerful household in believing in God and believing Amunah Tzadikim, Vayamina Bar Hashem of Moshe Avdoi. Wo was Moshe? Moshe Avdoi, Moshe Rabbeinu. And I say, a Rebbe, Gid Brachas. In every generation, this forum tell us, is Franen Anitzis of Moshe Rabbeinu. In my case, it was Mavitz Rebbe. Somebody else is Satmar, somebody is Klausenburger, somebody Baba, the son. So I had both. I had the Emunah Tzadikim, I had the built-in believing in God, but I touched it. By me, Hasgocha put this is not only believing, I feel it. Questions? Thank you very much for listening to me.
The next part of the program, we're going to take some time now for Zisman, for Leibel, and for Dr. Lichtenstein to take some questions. We're going to walk around with the microphone. In order to facilitate the process, we're going to ask people just to raise their hands, and we'll try to get to some people. Not everyone will get their questions answered right now, but in about 20 minutes at 4:30, we're going to begin the Yizkarein presentation of the